Hello, Kristin. Thank you so very much for your patience in me being able to get this back to you. Like this last week has completely kicked my ass with ascension symptoms. So bad, thrown off my sleep schedule. Like my body is just like, ugh. So I'm finally getting your reading to you, and I thank you so very much for being patient with me and getting it there. Since we have already looked into your soul groups, and done that aspect of starseed markings, what I have done for this reading is focused on the synastry between you and your mom Deb and you and your dad Mark. And then because I see again a very specific karmic pattern playing out in the relationship with your mother, I wanted to get some messages from the Mixed Emotions Oracle. And then the last part of this reading, I've used my mediumship to connect with your dad as one of your spirit guides. And he had given me a letter using automatic writing and wanted me to write this letter to you from him. And so I will close the reading with those messages from your dad. Okay. So kind of like we had discussed when we were looking at the starseed markings relationships with your children, there is typically one parent that signs up to have a much more challenging and triggering dynamic with the child than the other parent does. The other parent kind of actually has the easier job, and they sign up to be more of a supportive karmic bond with the child. As you can probably guess, in terms of your parental synastry, your dynamic with your mom, Deb, is the challenging, very karmic, very triggering parent-child dynamic. So one of the first things that popped out to me as I was interpreting the synastry is that your mom's Venus is completely opposite yours, and your Mars is also opposite her Venus. In conjunct, your Mars. You literally have two completely different love languages. I could also see that with you carrying the Mars and it pulling in opposition, that your mother was the one dependent on you in your soul contract. And I kind of could see this dynamic in the relationship that your sister has with your mom as well. It's almost like you were the mothers and she was the child. And this is really difficult because this is a dynamic that challenges you to trust yourself, to follow your own path, and to nurture yourself and understand yourself, because this feminine embodiment, this maternal archetype that is supposed to represent all of that to you, did not provide those things for you, was not able to, or there was a deficit in providing for those needs for you in some way. But I definitely get with the Aries and Libra Venus axis that love for you is a verb. It's something, it's a state of being. It's not like your mother showed love in a very superficial way. It didn't have depth. It didn't have soul. It was a lot of talk. And you deliberately were like, God, listen to her. She is all talk. I am going to be somebody who is all about doing. And so for you, love is all about like, show me, don't tell me. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I'm about because I'm too busy out here doing it. You watching me? And this is your drive too. And this is like that Aries Mars energy with your Mars and your Venus being where they're at. And so it's very much like, no, like I'm going where I'm going because it's what feels right for me. Your mom's Jupiter is in retrograde opposite your Neptune. And literally, this is something that you and your sister, this is identical in your synastry with your mother, is that your mother's values, her beliefs, her family traditions, her way that she thought people should behave, women should behave, girls should behave. Very influenced by like a negative or a distorted set of family values. Jupiter in retrograde means that there is something stifled. There is something that is not quite on point about the values of Jupiter when we have it in retrograde. And this is with your Neptune being directly opposite it. In the back of your mind, you have like called bullshit on your mom in your head since you were a little kid. Like, and this was funny, and it's okay. So I had this image when I was doing this in Kayla's video. I had this image where I was like in her. I had like gone and I was looking through her eyes as a kid, like listening to your mom like go on and on and on about something. And then I could hear in the back of my mind the questioning. And like literally, I just saw that, but through different eyes. So I just saw this through your eyes. It like experienced your internal process of like your mom, ba-da, 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 ba-da. And like, you're like, mm-hmm. But in the back of your mind, you're like, bullshit, bullshit, hypocrite. Like, like, okay, mom, that's nice. So it's like this really challenging relationship. And like, everything in your subconscious mind is just telling you that this situation is like not legit. Like her perception of things is not legit. And it kind of causes you, it's had this effect of like suppressing you listening to your intuition. I get like this almost like a sense of gaslighting, like your mother has tried to gaslight you emotionally about things that you've like talked about or hashed it out over the years. Your Saturn and Jupiter are directly conjunct your mother's Lilith. You literally mirror back to her all of her hidden emotional wounds. And if she's willing to participate in this triggering mirroring dynamic, really, you had this karmic destiny to help your mother heal herself and to heal and stop the transmission of this distorted narrative that your mother is trying to pass down to you girls and get you to pass down to your children. But what I definitely see is you're all on board for the healing. Like you and Kayla have both like gone really into your healing and really, really confronting stuff. And the more that you do it, the more you're like, Mom, shit, we wish you could catch up to us. And it's sad because there's this feeling inside of you that your mom is meant to be healing with you, but she refuses. She's stubborn. She's like, no, my way, what I say, like, I know I'm right. And just really clinging on to her beliefs and values. Your Pluto is conjunct your mother's Neptune, which means that you can have this triggering of like past life karma that she's carrying over. You trigger it in her. And it goes along with that Lilith and Saturn Jupiter relationship that you have. Is like literally, you could have this mutually very triggering, but also deeply cathartic and healing relationship. But it's like, because your mother has this codependent energy, you have had to be the pacekeeper in the relationship. You've had to try and be the one who healed, the one who changed, the one who swallowed their pride, the one who faced their fears. You know, I see that she is very, very stubborn. And part of what this has fostered in you is this rebellious sense of like, fuck what you say. I've got to go my own way. Like, I've just got to do whatever. And you can't hold me down. You definitely have this rebellious streak because she is very controlling. She has a very controlling energy, a very restrictive energy to you. Now, in terms of your astrology with your dad, Mark, I see what I would characterize as being a very supportive karmic connection between the two of you. Oh, sorry about that. I had to get a little drink. So, in terms of your relationship with your dad, Mark, his Venus trines your Mercury, which means that his expression of the way that he loved you really shaped your worldview and your communication style. Your dad was more expressive and less critical, in terms of, reassuring you that you were loved, reassuring you that you were supported. Um, and it very powerfully shaped your worldview. You looked at your dad as someone who had, seen a lot in his time. And if he was going to give you advice, you really took it to heart because you understood that he was coming from a place of love when he would share things with you. Your sun and your Venus are a sextile to your father's sun and Venus. This means a beautiful, mutually supportive soulmate relationship, a very kindred understanding, and that you understood the way that each other expressed love in the relationship. You met each other's emotional needs as father and daughter. But also, with your sun and Venus being in Aries, which is very much an independent, go my own way, and his sun and Venus being in Aquarius, which is also very independent, very break from the pack, is you had this kindred understanding that your dad was an individual and he could see that you were a one of a kind, like an individual as well, not someone who is made to go with the pack. Your vertex is on the cusp of your dad's 5th house. And this to me is a destined parent-child relationship. The 5th house is managed by the astrological sign of Leo. And one of the things about Leo is like Leos love children. Leos love expression. They enjoy parenting and find a sense of purpose in life through raising a child. And because this is, that 5th house cusp, vertex is a point of fate, of destiny in our individual birth charts. And so this is a destined like parent-child dynamic that's absolutely beautiful. He was destined to be your daddy. Your Lilith is conjunct your dad's Saturn. That means that he creates an emotionally safe space for you to process and heal. That is one of the things that I'm picking up on, and like I'm being shown a lot of things right now while I'm going through this reading for you. But I'm being shown, like, if you would be upset about something, like your mom could not get you to calm down, your mom could not, she didn't know how to soothe you, but your dad would take you and pull you aside and talk to you, and it would be just the two of you away from everybody else. And he would ask you, like, what do you think? Like, how do you feel? And you knew it was always safe to open up and tell him that you wouldn't be misunderstood, that you wouldn't be judged, that he would just get it, that he just gets you. And that was a good balance to the frustration of feeling like your mom didn't get you at all and she didn't compromise to try to get you better. Also, your 2nd house cusp was conjunct your dad's Chiron and North Node, which means that you being yourself and living in your truth, your authentic self-expression, brought so much healing to your dad, so much joy to your dad. And he also was supportive in terms of supporting your confidence and supporting you to have your own set of values to guide you as a person who has to do things their own way, because he could totally understand that. So I want to get into this karmic relationship with your mother, please, for Kristin and Deb. Let's get into this karmic relationship and see what this dynamic is like and how it can be healed. Let's get into this. One more shuffle. Looking good. All right, overall energy at the bottom of the deck, we have inadequate, worthless, incompetent, and ill-equipped. Okay, this is the projection of your mother on you. This is what she's projecting. This is her beliefs and her input to you have created this narrative that you're somehow inadequate or unworthy. And it's really, really interesting because I know that we're doing the sacral chakra healing and empowerment course right now. And we're in week 3 of trauma, and we talk about love languages and attachment style and these distorted scripts. And it's so, so interesting. Like, I bet you and Kayla will probably watch the videos together. But what came up in these messages for Kayla is like this distorted feminine energy from your mother. And, you know, making you feel like you're somehow inadequate. And it's really because that's how she feels about herself. What else about this karmic dynamic between Kristin and Deb? Wow. So, grief here, the energy of your mom, of Deb. Sorrowful, heartbroken, bereaved. There is something about her, because she is such a codependent person, that it's almost like she is still riding the victim pity party wave. And it's really hard because she uses inadequacy to try to get people to come and save her. But yet that's what she fears the most about herself. And it gets her stuck. I'm getting so strongly that this is not just like your dad passing away. This is like, you know, somebody who is literally just holding on. Look at inadequate. Like, can I carry all this baggage? Will this little beetle carry all this heavy baggage up this steep hill? Like, so much emotional baggage related to perceived abandonment. And this is very characteristic of an anxious, like a codependent attachment style. And when you're dealing with somebody like that, you know, it's really hard because you tend to be the giver in the dynamic, where you're the one that's devoted, affectionate, tender. And again, this goes back to me feeling, and I got this so strongly for your sister too, like your mother's emotional baggage is so pervasive that it's like she expects you to mother her. And this is a really tough dynamic to grow up in. You know, I actually grew up in a dynamic like this, and oh my gosh. To be honest, I couldn't even start healing it until my mother passed away, because there was so much like gaslighting, inability to confront, you know, her own stuff and what she projected on us, that like we couldn't even come to a consensus about what had truly gone down until after she was dead, which was horrible. And I don't wish that on anybody. But, you know, I do get her holding on to like so much bitterness, playing the victim and feeling resentful and expecting other people to nurture her, not learning how to nurture herself, or feeling like she is fundamentally incapable of doing it for herself. You know, and what does this create? This feeling of being overwhelmed, swamped, inundated, burdened. You know, like everybody, we all have our own baggage. But like to try to assume somebody else's baggage when they're like, oh, I have all this baggage, but I'm ill-equipped to handle it. Like, oh my God. And it's really, really hard to have, mercy and compassion for somebody, which is interesting because compassion is next. When, the expectations can kind of mount on you like this. But part of the healing is recognizing that while there may be codependence coming from your mother, that you are consciously participating in a codependent dynamic with her until you can completely be compassionate with yourself and with her and find the sympathy in it. That doesn't mean to feed a victim narrative for her. But also, what about you? All this energy that's been put into nurturing and soothing Deb. Well, what about Kristin? And it's really difficult because having a dynamic like this where we have to save or caregive for a parent, and I see that you and Kayla both had to do this for your mom, that it's really hard to be compassionate to somebody who like is so stubborn that they don't want the dynamic to change. It's toxic, but they feel comfortable in it because it's what they know. So this is where that deeper healing comes in. What is the specific karmic lesson that is going to be resolved in this healing that Kristin will be doing on the female ancestral line? Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is it. This is staring down the barrel of codependence and blowing it away. It's getting to that feeling of lonely, isolated, alienated, friendless. The one thing that you can do for yourself and for your healing that your mother is not able to do, that is really going to end this generational karmic cycle of distorted feminine energy in your family, is to recognize that sometimes being alone shouldn't make us feel lonely, that we need to be okay with being alone. Yeah, sometimes it can be unfulfilling, but this is merely a perspective. And I know that you've done a lot with the neuro-linguistic programming. So what can we do when we're not grateful? Oh, we can shift and be like, unfulfilled, but what am I grateful for? Right? Like, what am I thankful? What am I appreciating? So, I mean, yeah, look at this kid. And I love, like, there's lunch trays in this whole thing. That is so interesting. This kid's like, oh, I'm isolated. Oh, this is so unfulfilling. But then like, oh, wait a second. You know what? I need to adopt this attitude of gratitude because look at me. I've got this meal in front of my face. I got this privacy and peace to say this prayer, to say thank you for it. And I'm going to sit with myself and be grateful because I've been presented with this opportunity to sit with myself, to really get in and love and forgive myself so that I can love unconditionally. And what came in on the bottom of it? Comforted, reassured, consoled, nourished. This is something that when we have these codependent cycles in our family, each of us has to master this for ourselves. To learn the self-soothing, to learn the self-comforting, because this is something that an expectation that your mother has projected on you in your relationship dynamic. And while also projecting her own fears and beliefs about being inadequate onto you and making you feel that you are only as good as your ability to carry her burdens up this mountain. And that's absolutely not true. So with this grateful, be grateful for the karmic lesson and see that it's an opportunity to learn about yourself. And by, again, being in week 3, of the Divine Feminine Healing and Empowerment module. Here we're talking about the domains of the sacral chakra and trauma. We're talking about reparenting ourselves, relearning attachment styles, relearning love languages, or at least critically examining them, and seeing that having space to ourselves and learning how to self-soothe, learning how to self-heal in a healthy and productive way from a place of gratitude rather than blame. It takes, I just love it. It takes away the exhaustion. It keeps us from feeling hateful. Okay, these are two energies that your mom is very much holding on to, and they're getting her nowhere. They're an obstacle to her being able to continue developing and feeling lighter and feeling free. So for the last part of the reading, I wanted to share with you this channel message. And this is a letter to you from your dad, Mark. Kristin, you have so much of your daddy in you. You taught me what love is just by being you and your sister. You are so wise and so loving and so full of sass. Quit beating yourself up for what's been and let yourself be happy. If you trust and believe that you're worth it, there is so much waiting for you. You have done a damn good job with my grandkids. Don't feel too much responsibility for your mom. She's responsible for herself and her own decisions. You and Kayla have outgrown her perspective a long time ago, and you know her shit stinks. Forgive her as you forgive yourself, and you will be healing this for you and for your family. I love you, and I watch over you and your sister. I'm always near. I'm proud of you, my little fighters, and I love you so very much. Love, Dad. I don't think there's anything that I could possibly say to follow that up. But just know that he is still your number one cheerleader and is so much in your energy. Every time that voice of your conscience comes through, if you get a little giggle, your dad's energy is giving you like an energetic confirmation. That's it. Listen to your gut. Listen to yourself. You know. All right. So thank you so very much for allowing me the opportunity to create these readings for you and for Kayla. And as always, dear, I am sending you so much love. Bye.